Hey everybody, Bob Chick back with David Bay, another installment of TLR. We are in the heat of things. Summer is heating up, David, but time is ever dwindling. The Olympia is officially around the corner.
The heat is on. It's a damn good song. It's a damn good song right there.
Yeah, I figured you'd know that one. So.
Yeah, the clock's ticking. You know, every year the year starts, and it's like, who's going to make it to the Olympia this year? So many shows for people to qualify, and now we start getting around July, and all of a sudden there is 1 month left to qualify for the Olympia. As many of you guys know, August 12th is the cutoff date. So there's no qualifications after August 12th for the 2017 Olympia. There are some shows between then and the Olympia, but it gets you qualification for next year's show. I talked to Robin Chang a little bit about it, and we had talked. It just becomes kind of a logistical nightmare for as big of a setup as the Olympia is, and as much as they do for all the athletes and the promotion, you can't have people qualifying a week or two out. So yeah, the clock's winding down on getting Olympia qualifications, and for bodybuilders, it's really winding down. We got a couple of shows coming up: Vancouver, Tampa, and
that's about it.
That's it,
right? That tells me actually that we should probably hear about a few people that have qualified via the point system this week, as obviously they'll be mathematically, vested in. You know, they can't be unseated.
Yeah, I mean, if there's only one more show left in Tampa for the open guys to qualify, we'll know who's in the driver's seat, who's potentially in, and who's for surely out. So it'll be interesting to see. All the guys that compete, they want to win. They want to get to the Olympia on a first place finish. But there's a lot of guys whose goal is just to get to the Olympia stage, and so we might see some names do Tampa that we didn't think previously would do that show if they feel like they can get a top spot. Although I did see on social media within the last couple of days, Josh Lenardowitz has committed to doing the Tampa Pro show. So shy of one of the top, 6 or 7 Olympia guys showing up. I hate to call a winner this early because I like to give guys their due respect, but I have a hard time seeing anybody beating Josh Lenardowitz in Tampa.
Well, the king of the gym, he needs to be the king of the stage. This is a one and done. I mean, it's an all or nothing for Josh, because obviously if he doesn't win it, that's it for him. I mean, he's out. So he's literally putting all his eggs into this basket, which, like you said, I mean, listen, he should win on paper. But
yeah, I mean, he looks obnoxiously large right now. I mean, he started prepping, I think, a little bit for the Arnold. Josh is a guy, from what I've heard, that gets ready for shows really fast, so he wasn't at a position where he was killing himself yet in the spring. So Josh has had a good off season, a lot of time to grow, and he's still a relatively young bodybuilder, and he looks like he's definitely grown. So it'll be interesting in Tampa.
Well, I mean, that's the physique I want to see on the Olympia stage. I mean, certainly he is Olympia worthy. That's a guy knocking on the top 10. So best of luck to Josh. I'll see him there. I'll be in Tampa calling that one. Another Tim Gardner Productions. Tim's got the big gauntlet here at the end of the year. Chicago.
Absolutely.
I just got back from, as you know now, this show was a record-breaking show for Chicago. It did beat the Tampa record held by Tim Gardner. But I think Tampa is going to beat the Tampa record. Now, we had 218 pros in Chicago. Yeah, I think Tampa will be close to 230, which would break the record. But let's talk about Chicago for a minute, David. Again, the show was huge. It was well-produced, obviously. Tim Gardner and his crew doing a great job once again. There were some Olympia spots up for grabs here, so let's get right into the open division here in Chicago.
Yeah, I tell you what, the biggest surprise for me of the entire show, and a little bit of a foot-in-mouth moment for David Bay here, but I'm okay admitting that, Regan Grimes cracking the top 5 and taking that 5th place spot.
Yep.
I've been very complimentary of Regan's physique, his aesthetics, his potential, and the pace at which he got into condition for this show. That being said, I kind of stuck to my guns that I didn't think Regan was going to be able to stand on the stage with some of the more seasoned pros and hold his own in the size department. I really thought he was going to look like a young man up against a lot of grown competitors, and I was very pleasantly surprised at how he compared to the rest of the guys. Even some of your bigger guys like Kevin Jordan and Luis Rodriguez. Regan really held his own up there, and again, it was a little bit of a foot and mouth setup for me because I had been very outspoken about how I thought he had great potential, but this wasn't going to be his show. And to come out as young as he is in his pro debut and crack the top 5 against a pretty solid top 4 was very impressive. And he beat a lot of really good names too.
Yep.
I mean, that's the thing. I mean, we focus on the fact that, okay, you got top 5 in your pro debut, which is excellent. But he beat a lot of guys, Eddie Bracamontes, Josh Wade. I mean, there's some good competitors that he beat. He beat, Fred Smalls, finishing in 8th place. So Regan definitely came out guns a-blazing, and hell of a finish for a kid that young.
I'm going to defend you a little bit on this one now. Listen, did he hold his own? Absolutely. I mean, I thought the kid was outstanding. Great young talent. He's got a very bright future ahead of him. That said, you could tell a difference, David, between him in person especially. Now, as obviously you've been on the stage as I have in that coveted spot at the podium, you got a pure sideways view with these guys. So the one thing you can see is thickness. And the difference between him and the other guys was notable. I mean, he looks like a young guy up there. Legs are a little bit ahead of his upper body. Reminded me a lot of myself, actually, as a young guy, where it was pretty much legs, and I had to bring the upper body up to match. But he's got a good future, and I tell you what, he looks a little young in terms of muscle maturity, but you can tell he's got all the properties of being a champion out there. So he did a great job. By the way, he's able to do a vacuum into an ab shot and then back into a vacuum again, which is pretty impressive on stage because it's a lost art, as you know.
Yeah, he's got a hell of a taper.
Yeah,
I mean,
he's, like I said, this kid's for real. I mean, I hope he does. Is he signed up for Vancouver this week?
He is in Vancouver, and we'll talk a little bit about Vancouver in just a minute. But yeah, he's definitely on the list for Vancouver. And being from Canada, it's a big deal for him. And a week, he's been all over social media, and doesn't look like he's made any crazy changes in the last week. But as anybody who's competed knows, or has been around the sport knows, when you're already pretty close to being in contest shape or in contest shape, a lot can be done in a week. So look for an improved Regan coming up in Vancouver. But definitely a really solid pro debut for Regan Grimes, finishing 5th place at any pro show, regardless of how big it was, would have been something nice for him. But being that it was a show as big as Chicago, Tim Gardner's show, historically one of the biggest shows that the IFBB has each year or has ever had, it was absolutely incredible.
All right, 4th place, David.
Charles Griffin, my man, I predicted for the win. Charles just, he wasn't as sharp as he was in St. Louis, definitely not as sharp as he was in California. Could he have won? Possibly, but the conditioning just wasn't there. So he slipped a little bit. I don't speak to Charles enough to know as far as whether that was just an issue of getting burnt out or he tried something different as far as his last week or two of prep. But still a good top 5 finish for Charles. Another few points for Olympia qualification, but not the win he was looking for.
Well, I had Charles winning when he walked out. He looked impressive, but he started fading almost immediately. He was in good shape, but he wasn't in great shape, and he started fading as the call-outs kept going. And Michael Lockett, who we'll get into in a moment, was actually getting better as he was going on. So that was ultimately the difference in why he dropped so far, because I had him in a solid 1-2 with Michael when they first came out. Now, again, first impressions are nice, but when they get settled into getting into the mandatories and the side-by-side comparisons, that's when you start to see the difference between the winner and whoever else. So still a nice finish, like I said, but not the one he was looking for. But if he's in Vancouver, and it looks like Vancouver is pretty much a carbon copy of Chicago with a couple of added names.
I don't think he was on the original list for Vancouver. No, I'm taking a look at it right now. I don't see him on the list. But and by today, and I just pulled it up right now, but by today that list should have been updated. That's not to say he's not there. I haven't checked with him or his coach, but as far as it looks, he's not in Vancouver.
Well, if he is, he needs to be just a little bit sharper and needs to be able to maintain that. And I'll tell you what, this guy's a contender in any show he's in. In the 3rd place, the top 3 money spots, David.
Kevin Jordan. Kevin, other than I think his first show or his second show, Kevin's placed top 5 in everything he's done. So he's been very consistent. He's been consistent with his improvements. Does he still need to get a little bit better? Yes. Does he still have yet to recreate that crazy, crazy conditioning we saw when he really jumped on the scene at the 2011 Junior Nationals? Yes, but he's one of these guys who there isn't an overnight, I shouldn't say overnight Ronnie Coleman transformation, because when you were following Ronnie, we knew that it was progression, but seemingly an overnight transformation. So for Kevin, he's getting a little better year in and year out, and he's moving his way up. So now he's placing, he's been placing top 5. Now he worked his way up to a 3rd place spot against the Michael Lockett and a very competitive Luis Rodriguez in 2nd place. So a very good finish for Kevin. He's got to be happy with that. He lived in Chicago for a long time, so a town that he kind of considers like home.
Yep.
So a solid 3rd place for Kevin Jordan, and he's in Vancouver as well. So he's running into some of the guys he ran into in Chicago. So we'll see how that plays out. But definitely a good finish for Kevin.
Well, local boy did good. He had a lot of fans there. He looked impressive coming out. He's a big boy. He's got good shoulder width, nice taper. Got to bring the legs up a little bit more. Nothing he doesn't know. He's been working on that, and he has brought them up. It's impressive. His upper body's very big, so that's always going to be a battle. But he's made significant improvement, and I tell you, his conditioning was pretty spot on. He's another one. He needs a little seasoning in the gym. Needs another year or two maybe. And I tell you what, this kid can be in contention for some wins, and he'll definitely make it to the Olympia. Clearly, if not this year, and he can certainly win in Vancouver.
Yeah, I don't, barring some sort of injury that Kevin would face in the next year or two, I agree with you 100%. I think that inside of 2 years, we'll see Kevin winning some shows, and we'll see him on the Olympia stage.
But I tell you what, he was right in the mix. The one critique I would have, he's got to watch the midsection. And it wasn't a matter of he didn't have the big, the blown out gut, and all that kind of thing by any stretch. It's more of a control issue, and you can see he was gassing pretty good when they compared him a lot. They were getting a lot of comparisons back and forth. It was very close with those top 3 guys. Literally at one point could have kind of gone either way with them. But he was sucking it up pretty good, and you got to watch that midsection. You got to control that from here. It's a big difference. You can't breathe out the mouth, and you don't want that belly going in and out. But again, we're nitpicking, but you know what? When you get into the top 3, David, at an IFBB Pro show, that's what you're going to do.
Yeah, Kevin's got a tight waist when you look at his front shots and his side shots. But as with a lot of competitors, when you're going through your transitions, when you've been put through a few rounds of mandatories, you're starting to huff and puff a little bit. That's when you really have to focus on keeping it tight, especially set up inside chest, side tricep. And, we just ran into the issue last week, people talking about comparison photos and things like that. Well, look at this picture and look at this picture and try to be the judge. And the one thing people forget is when the judges are sitting there watching this live, if somebody turns to the side and they let their stomach hang out, that's not part of the pose, but that's still being judged. That's still something I'm looking at. If they're relaxing in between poses, if their general posture and presentation is subpar in between the poses, that's something that the judges are taking into consideration. I'm not saying that Kevin's is subpar in any regard, but it's just important that all the athletes make sure that when you're on stage, you have to be hitting the poses, and you also have to be making sure that when you're going through the transitions and setting up poses, you be mindful of the fact that you're still being judged. So, and I think the solution to that is just practice posing a lot more. Yeah, I don't care how much cardio you do. Posing cardio and treadmill cardio or stair mill cardio are not the same at all. To be able to get up on stage and hold those poses, and when you're doing a smaller show or a local level show or whatever, sometimes you're through one round of mandatories. It's an easy judging and you're done. And we even see it that way at pro shows. But if you have a difficult lineup, you should be prepared to do 3 or 4 rounds of mandatories at every show you enter. And I've seen more. We've seen Steve Weinberger put some of these guys through the serious ringer, and the guys who get better and they keep their composure are usually the ones that are going to end up placing higher.
Well, good lesson learned. What I did like about Kevin was that he seemed to be getting better as he kept going. It was more of a breathing issue, just trying to catch his breath from hitting the shots. And listen, it's exciting up there. It's you got your people out there screaming for you. You're trying as hard as you can to hit every muscle you can, as hard as you can, and to make it look good. So. There's a lot that goes into it for those who've never done it. You're exactly right, David. You could do wind sprints out there. It's not the same as trying to flex every muscle in your body at the same time and make it look good.
Completely different type of cardio.
Horse of a different color, my friend. Speaking of which, Luis Rodriguez comes in second. Now, it was established pretty early that it was going to be a 3-man race. With those 3 guys, obviously Michael Lockett being the third. Luis was impressive. This guy has made some great improvement, put on a ton of muscle. He looked good. Conditioning was good. held his poses in check. Really not a lot of critique there. He just literally got out-muscled by Michael, which for people that are familiar with Michael Lockett know, this guy carries about as much pure just muscle on his frame than anybody.
Yeah, Michael's no. I thought Luis looked great as he did in New York. I don't know that he was really any better here than he was in New York.
About the same. Yeah.
Maybe marginally, but obviously the lineup in Chicago not quite as deep as New York on the top end of things. But I thought he looked really good, and I think he's another guy that's in the boat as Kevin Jordan. When you start talking about where he's going to be in the next couple of years, I don't see it far-fetched at all to say he's a guy that can win shows. You know, he's been in good condition, not like next-level grainy, and I think that's what sets a lot of these guys apart. And when we talk about Michael Lockett, and I've said this every time I've discussed Lockett, and I probably will every time I discuss Lockett in the future, he's just a different bodybuilder to judge because of his makeup. Does he have one leg that's smaller? Yes. Is he weak in some of his back shots? Yes. Are his side shots? His side shots are just something that just completely different than what we see with somebody else. There's so much dense, grainy muscle tissue in his delts and his hamstrings and his quads and especially his glutes from his side poses that he's almost hard to compare to somebody else. And I didn't have a term or words to put my finger on what it is with his physique over the last handful of years, and I still don't know. Michael Lockett is just a different bodybuilder altogether. People have seen him in person, know what we're talking about, and he is massive. That's the one thing that's a little bit deceiving about Michael is you see him sometimes in his back shots and some of his front shots that aren't his strongest, and you think, wow, he's not as big as some of these guys. When you see Michael Lockett in person, he has slabs of muscle on top of muscle on top of muscle, and with that lineup, you know, not having a guy show up incredibly, you know, I think had Kevin or Luis or Charles or maybe even Regan been, you know, Dorian Yates, grainy, shredded, you know, maybe they could have pulled out a win. But on that day versus that lineup, Michael Lockett was a fair winner.
Well, I'll tell you this, nobody more deserving. Michael's put in his time, and he's been beaten in a few close shows for those reasons you just mentioned. He's had good competition. He just was not able to really close the door. You know, if you got just enough weaknesses, it'll open that door, you know, when you get on stage to some of the best in the world. So I was happy for Michael. I mean, it was good to see him in the winner's circle. You know, always a great addition to the Olympia stage. So congratulations to him. We'll see him, obviously, on the Olympia stage. Lots of other competitions going on the same day. The 212 was in the house.
212. I had to double check the pictures because I thought Charles Dixon and Dobromir and Alejandro Cambronero were going to be battling it out for a first place spot. And then I went and looked at pictures. I'm like, who the heck is this guy in the middle? I've never heard of your winner, Ricardo Correa, before. And I was super impressed. It was kind of exciting seeing a competitor that you've never seen before or somebody that you possibly have seen before but you overlooked them and they've just made that, you know, that incredible of improvements. And so it was definitely neat. And as you know, as we had discussed, you know, off camera, this is a guy that can go into the Olympia and he can be a threat to some of the top guys if he shows up looking like he did in Chicago with just a little bit of improvements.
I think he's an absolute top 5 contender right now. I'll go on that short limb and say that this kid's put together, and he has been around actually. He just didn't do anything really last year worth note. You know what I mean? But this year he did. He made some great improvements. He came back, and he wasn't even at the top of the class, David. He had a few pounds still to go, so he can actually improve a little bit. And I'm not so sure he should actually go up any more than he was because he was in condition. He looked great. Right. Posing was good, on point. He was in control of his presentation, and he had some damn good competition. Like I said, Cambronero was right there. He's got a great physique. I tell you, I'm a real big fan of Alex's physique. He's really just put together well.
It's always fun seeing Alex and Charles Dixon next to each other. They're such such different types of physique. Nobody's ever going to accuse Charles Dixon of having the most aesthetic physique, but he's pretty close to as being as wide as he is tall as anybody I've ever seen in the sport. Hence a very fitting nickname, the Tank. And where Alex has sweeping quads, a very small waist, a great taper, very fluid poser. And so you're getting as far polar opposites as you could possibly have on the stage when Alex and Charles are on stage next to each other. But it makes for good competition. Makes a difficult job for the judges, being that their physiques are so night and day. But at the end of the day, I thought Ricardo had a good win. I had to double check and see if he was in any relation to Eduardo, which
No.
apparently not. They're from the other side of the globe. But definitely a good win. And again, exciting to see just some new talent popping up and doing well.
Yeah, that's definitely. He's from the UK actually. Now Correa is inherently a Brazilian name, so he could have Brazilian heritage, but he lives in the UK, so he's got the London accent and everything, which is kind of funny to talk to him. I can't understand half of what's coming out of his mouth, but he's certainly entertaining. And he's
some of the guys with the British accents, you can understand. Like, Peter's got a British accent. I
can't understand Peter.
And you can understand everything he says. And I know from speaking to people from the United Kingdom, people from different parts of the UK just like from different parts of the United States, have vastly different accents. Half of what Nathan DeAsha says, I can't understand what he's saying. There's a couple other guys that we've interviewed where you're just like laughing and shaking your head at the same time because you're catching bits and pieces. But that's how Ricardo is. So, but a very bubbly spirit and very similar to Nathan, and a fun guy to be around.
Well, we'll see him at the Olympia. Like I say, I'm going to go on that prediction train right now and say that he's in the first call out, being compared with those guys. He'll be right there with Flex and Jose and the crew.
It's a bold prediction, my friend.
Bold, but as you know, I'm always correct. So you could just put it in the bank now. It's going to happen, bro. It's going to happen. So, all right, give me some other. Before we get into what's coming up, give me some other winners.
A classic physique, Cleveland Thomas. Nobody saw him really winning, with names like George Peterson, Santiago Aragon. Santi slipped quite a bit. I'm not really sure what happened with his prep, but, he fell out of the top 16, which is very uncharacteristic.
That was not a legendary performance, my friend.
It's not legendary. No. But Santi's a good guy. He'll bounce back.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just going to cover some of the other divisions. Men's physique, our newcomer, Sergi Constance, not a newcomer to the fitness industry, one of the most famous models in all of the fitness industry, but now relatively new to the IFBB, won men's physique. Autumn Swanson winning women's physique over my pick, Susan Smith. Figure, looks like we had Tiffany Hebert, and she's been doing well. Women's bodybuilding, a rookie, and Brittany O'Veal won that title. Fitness, Royale Graber, no surprises there. And bikini, Jessica Renee, also no surprise there. So a couple of divisions, Cleveland Thomas, Ricardo Correa, Tiffany Ebert jumping out in figure. We had some surprises, but some of the other divisions, things played out exactly how we figured they would.
Tiffany Hebert, my friend.
Hebert. I know a guy who's God, what's his first name?
Listen, if you're going to be doing these shows,
he pronounced it. Oh, it's a guy from around here. He pronounces it Hebert. So,
well,
I'm sure it looks French. Hebert.
Yeah, it's a bear. Yeah, it's a bear. Bear. Anyway,
we talking about Chicago. It's funny because there's the show in, I was going to say Toronto, but rather Vancouver this weekend. And a lot of the top names, if we look at Vancouver, are the same as the Open in Chicago. So I suppose we can kind of jump into that. As far as the big names, Paulo Almeida is going to be there. Henry Pierre is going to be there. Eddie's there again. Regan Grimes is there again. Kevin Jordan, Michael Lockett. We have Fred Smalls, Josh Wade. The most notable additions to Vancouver that weren't in Chicago are Brandon Ray. Will be there competing in the Open. They have him listed as the Open, and I'm pretty sure that's correct.
Sure,
and Luke Sandow, we saw earlier this year at the Arnold Classic. So there's a couple other guys, Stephen Fraser, Michael Cipriani, a handful of other new names. But the two big guys that stand out to me that weren't in Chicago, Brandon Ray and Luke Sandow. If I'm making an early prediction based off of this, I don't even... I'd like to say Michael Lockett's going to come out and repeat from Chicago, but Brandon Ray's always been a big question mark to me. He's one of these guys where if he ever really, really nailed it, he could be winning all the shows, and I haven't been following his progress too much. So this is one where I think Brandon Ray, if he shows up, could win. Luke Sandow's got a ton of muscle. If he showed up razor sharp, he's a little bit top heavy, but it's going to be another good show, and with a week in between. it's not necessarily just going to be a flat out repeat of the placings in Chicago. A lot can happen in a week. A lot can happen in 48 hours. A lot can happen in 10 minutes with guys fading on stage.
Is Kevin Jordan in there? Is his name on the list?
Kevin Jordan is in there. As we know, he was going to go to Vancouver, I believe it was last year, had some issues.
That's right.
He had some issues getting in, which not uncommon at all. Kevin posted on his social media today, I'm in. He was all excited that, but he just got the paperwork squared away. Then he needed to get squared away, and so he didn't have any troubles getting in. But the Open's definitely going to be good. So like I said, I think that probably if I had to pick, I would go with Michael Lockett. But I think Brandon Ray could definitely make things interesting, and so could Kevin Jordan, Regan Grimes, even guys like Eddie Bracamontes, who slipped a little bit last week again, could pull it together. I love seeing Dusty Hanshaw on stage, one of my favorite bodybuilders, just a blue collar, hardworking guy. So I know he can look great. So the Open at Vancouver is. Congrats to Michelle Crack, the promoter there. The show's only been there for a handful of years, and she's managed to put together a huge men's open lineup.
Well, a couple things. Kevin Jordan, if he improves 5%, he can win this thing. He's got enough firepower. He's got enough muscle. He's brought the legs up enough to match the upper body. That can happen. My man Eddie Bracamontes. Now, we talked about this last week in the preview. This kid's got to get it together. I mean, he has literally all the tools, bro.
He does. He
really put
does.
together well. I mean, he's got a great physique if he can get his conditioning on point. And if he can, listen, he can win this show. Like, he could literally come in here and beat everybody up.
Huge. I mean, he's a big guy, and I've seen him in really good. He was in just ridiculous shape when he turned pro at nationals. I remember seeing Eddie at weigh-ins. And a couple people took pictures of him and stuff like that. And I had gone up to him and said, wow, I mean, you're ready. And I actually had talked to Chris Aceto. Obviously, we're not making it public. Obviously the whole RxMD thing at the time. But I talked to Aceto, and Aceto hadn't seen him in person yet. And Chris asked me, how does he look? And I said, he's ready to earn a pro card. So if Eddie can take the progress that he's made as far as muscularity and balancing out his physique a little bit and bring the same level of conditioning, and I know we say this all the time, a lot of ifs, and if this person could bring the conditioning they had from the 1992 this show or that show, but I guess my point is that he's got the potential to do very well. He's been in shape before, so it's not a situation where that's a level of conditioning he can't achieve to be where he needs at to win shows. But he's just got to put it all together. It's plain and simple.
Well, he doesn't have to, but it would be nice because I tell you, you like to see a guy. Well, see, here's the difference, okay? Like Dusty Hanshaw, okay? Love Dusty, good guy. Like I say, good. He's like the Branch Warren of this era, okay? Good, hardcore worker, all that kind of stuff. The whole deal. He does not have the most pleasing physique you've ever seen when it comes to just aesthetics. I'm talking the traditional small weight big show. He's built like a brick. Big muscular bastard, I tell you that. But in his best scenario, if he gets in 100%, there's certain people he can't beat. All right, one of those being an Eddie Bracamontes, who, if he is in 100%, is very difficult to beat. You can get a lot out of the gym, you can get a lot out of work ethic, and you can get a lot out of knowing what kind of diet works for you and all that kind of good stuff, dialing it in as it goes. But what you can't do is you can't get God-given talent. People with naturally wide shoulders and a small waist, you can't buy that. You can't get it in a bottle. You can't get it in the gym. There's no training method that you can do. You can't get those stupid waist things and make your, again, none of that stuff's gonna do the work. Yeah.
Waist trainers don't work, right? No, I know. No, but I will tell you what, and the cool part about Dusty is that Dusty realizes everything you're saying. Dusty realizes this, and he feeds off of it because in Dusty's head,
he should.
At least my understanding of my conversations with Dusty, he goes into these shows knowing, hey, you know what? I might not be the most genetically gifted guy, but watch me beat some guys that I shouldn't be beating.
Absolutely.
And watch that speak for my work ethic. If Dusty can get on stage and beat 4, 5, 6 guys that he quote unquote shouldn't be beating because of his structure or his shape, then that's a win for him. So even though, Dusty's, his legs don't match his back, he's a little bit blocky in the waist, but he's a fun competitor with a great attitude, and he's going on that stage again. Obviously, he's training to win. Look, we all train to win.
Of course,
everybody wants to win, even if you don't think it's going to happen. you hope something happens. But Dusty's training to beat the guys that people say he shouldn't beat. And if Dusty shows up in shape, and some of those guys who are, quote unquote, more gifted than him don't, guess who's finishing ahead of you?
Yeah, well, listen, and he'll beat some of those guys. Good for him. Everybody's got their goals. Getting on that stage and competing as a pro. Good for Dusty. The 212 is loaded up once again there.
212, another.
I see my man Mark Dugdale in there again. He's coming off a win.
Yeah, we got Mark Dugdale there. Auguste is going to be there. Alex is going to be there again. We have Namun Cho from South Korea. Your winner from Chicago, Ricardo Correa. Mm-hmm. We have Hyun Jin Kim from Korea and Kim Jun Ho that was also in Chicago. Wojtek Kortensky, perennial top 5 guy in most of the 212 shows he's entered. And Benjamin Parra from Mexico, who's just he's flip a coin. Is he going to be in shape or not? If he is, he might be able to look good. If not, he won't be in the top 5 or top 10 even. But the 212 lineup is going to be spectacular as well. So again, this Vancouver show is stacked. It was pretty stacked last year, and it's one of those shows where, because Chicago is such a huge event and Vancouver is relatively new, and in Toronto in June is such a huge event, I think Vancouver slips under a few people's radar, and it shouldn't. This is an incredible show. It's at I was there last year. It was my first time there. But it's at this expo hall that's right on the water where the cruise ships dock to take people up the west coast of Canada up to Alaska. A beautiful expo hall, restaurants all around where you can go have lunch and be on the coast and stuff like that. So the Vancouver show was a really good show. We had discussed the issues of athletes getting into Canada and that being frustrating for some people. But it looks like Michelle and some of the people that are working the Vancouver Pro are helping out the athletes that show interest to make sure that they have their paperwork in line and make sure that they're able to get in. You wouldn't think, everybody's nice in Canada. Yeah, they're nice in Canada, but they're pretty strict at the border. So another great 212 lineup. They have classic physique there as well. This is going to be interesting. We don't have Cleveland Thomas repeating from Chicago, but we do have George Peterson, who they go back and forth between listing him as Peterson and Patterson. I'm pretty sure it's the same.
By the way, it's Peterson actually. It's Peterson, because they did have him listed as Patterson, which we corrected, but it's Peterson.
But George Peterson is going to be there. Stan McQuay is going to be there. This is interesting. They have Panex Pierre listed in Classic. Now, he's a guy who had good structure, had been doing bodybuilding for a while, just didn't carry enough muscle. So it looks like he's finally made the transition, barring this just being a mistake. AJ Shakuri, a former bantamweight bodybuilder, Mark Sindayan. Mark, one of those guys turning pro as a bantamweight, but just not going to be able to carry the amount of muscle to be successful in 212. So he's trying his hand at Classic. And some of these other names that I don't really recognize, Nelson Lopez, the guy who got 5th in Chicago, is going to be there. And so another stellar divisional lineup for the Vancouver Pro. And the nice thing about Classic Physique, or I don't want nice, whatever the right word is that some of these names that I don't recognize are guys who could come out and really wow people. Damian Ricketts is on the list too. Damian, somebody you got to watch out for. So Classic Physique, 212 bodybuilding, and men's open bodybuilding in Vancouver this weekend is going to be a stellar lineup, a great show to watch, and exciting to see who gets their qualification for the Olympia, who stacks up a few extra points, and how that plays out for the guys deciding to do Tampa in a month.
Well, David, a very special event took place in Chicago. I'd be remiss, David, if I didn't mention that I had a great opportunity. Now, as well, somebody who's hosting shows now, you got to take advantage while you can of any opportunity to provide some sort of entertainment for the crowd.
Absolutely.
And all that kind of stuff. Absolutely. So sometimes I'll look down the list, I'll see certain matchups, and I'll do a special call out or things like that. But I see 2 names on the list, which I couldn't pass up. I got Tricky Jackson, who, by the way, competed in his final IFBB Pro show. Tricky's hanging him up, as most people know by now. And I got Ready Freddy. So
seems like it would be a perfect setup for a dance-off.
Oh, yeah.
I saw the video. The video was pretty spectacular.
So I got Fred and I got Tricky, and I'm like, all right, I got to make this work. Now, they're both in the Masters bodybuilding, whatever it was. Okay, so it wasn't going to, clearly they were going to go 1-2. It just depended on which way. It ended up going Tricky's way, but it was almost irrelevant to what we had going on at hand. So I may have set up a little something previously with Brett Gardner. That's Tim's son, for those who don't know, who does a great job with the music. So we got some old school music, and I got these guys out there. You talk about bringing the house down, and I'm sure you see some of the video.
I was looking for updates
phenomenal.
that night, and I reposted that video right away when I saw it, and it was
this was great.
It was a ton of fun for the crowd. Fred and Tricky kind of egging each other on and throwing stuff back at each other. But that's the sort of stuff where it's completely off script, and it's probably the most fun that crowd had all night. And that's the good stuff at the shows. Look, when something comes up, it's unexpected. You see an opportunity, like, you know what, this isn't part of the show, but let's make it part of the show. Let's make it a memorable experience for everybody. And it is.
It was cool. Listen, the audience ate it up. Freddie Smalls out there, and they played it right off. They kept going back and forth with each other.
Oh yeah, you knew those two. Those guys are performers. They love being on the stage. They love being in the limelight. And it doesn't matter whether it's planned or impromptu. Both of those guys are going to get up and put on a show, and that they did.
Now, I'll tell you this. It makes me a little bit sad to think that, like, Tricky's gone now. Now, I mean, he'll still be around the sport. Listen, he'll be around in some capacity. He'll probably, get into coaching or, which he should with his talent, guest postings, things like that. But from a competitive standpoint, you got Freddie Small. He's kind of the last of the Mohicans. I mean, you got Durham, who, and again, I don't know how much longer Durham can be out there.
Right. Yeah.
God bless him, but he's been holding that flag for some time. You literally down to Freddie Smalls. I mean, there are not a lot of guys who can do that style. I'm talking about the Melvin Anthony's, the Freddies and the Trickies. You got a few. It's almost like a dinosaur at this point, David, where I'll get lineups now, and I can foresee 45 minutes of love music coming on stage. That's what's coming, bro.
I think everybody's, you get, especially in classic physique, you get so many of these guys that are trying to be, and I understand, they're trying to present these very well-flowing, iconic poses, and they're trying to be dramatic to have their routines be memorable, and so they don't want to go and do dance moves and stuff like that and have it hurt the classic effect that their posing routine is going to have. And a lot of the bodybuilders today really don't do much dancing at all, and sometimes the guys who do dancing maybe shouldn't be. Yeah. Ruley still does a little popping and locking.
Yeah. Listen, he'll throw a couple seconds in there, but
so maybe you'll have to talk to Ruley about, like, you know what, instead of just doing a couple seconds, work that into your whole routine. But it would be nice to see. And I know a lot of these younger guys that are in classic physique and bodybuilding, they could probably dance. So it's just a matter of going out on a limb. You kind of put yourself out there at a little bit of a risk putting on those dance performances, because the crowd's either going to love you, or you're going to be the white guy doing the moonwalk where the whole crowd is like,
you don't want to do the Gunther. We saw that at the Olympia some years back, and I did apologize on behalf of white people everywhere for that performance. But
it's whether black guys, white guys, Asian guys. It's like, I would love to see somebody get up there and be able to do the sort of things that Melvin, Durham, Tricky, and Fred do. But only if you can do it. And Rolly can do it good enough to where he can pull it off, But I've seen some sad attempts.
You've got two things at work here. You've got the entertaining physiques, entertaining routines. Okay, it doesn't matter what kind of physique you got. Okay, but if you have an entertaining routine, a la Tricky Jackson, Melvin Anthony, Durham, those are great. And then you've got people that, okay, listen, I'm no dancer, but I can pose. And two names that come to mind is like a Hide Yamagishi.
Absolutely. Hide's routines are phenomenal.
And Sante Aragon, okay? Now, one thing Sante is legendary at already is posing.
Posing,
okay?
Absolutely.
This guy is great. I mean, he can put together a routine. It's very much like a Sean Ray routine, a Lee Labrada routine. There's that style, okay? Your traditional style. But here's the difference, okay? If you ever look back, guys, this is another public service announcement, David, that we'll do here on TLR. Do not pick love music. Okay, it puts people to sleep. There's nothing classic about it. If you go look at an old routine from a Sean Ray or Lee Labrada, or even currently, like Hide's the best example currently of somebody who can put together powerful, slow music, but it's powerful. There's a difference. And really work that stage. He's in command of his poses. He holds the poses, David. I mean, it's absolutely beautiful. There's a difference between that and coming out to Luther Vandross. And
I'm not even saying that you can't pose to slow music, but you still have to have.
It's got to be powerful.
It has to have an element of power. And I think I saw one of Sean's routines to Mariah Carey, "I Give My All," which is a slow song, but Mariah Carey belts stuff out, and I mean she could belt them out, right up there with Whitney and Celine Dion. And so if you have a song where somebody can really belt something out, or there's an aspect of power in the vocals,
sure,
or power in the track, then you can pull it off. But yeah, just the slower love songs. I've seen a couple guys come out and they're dedicating their routines to whether it be the girlfriends or their wives or something along those lines. And I understand that, because then it becomes, look, this is about me. It's not even about the crowd. But when it's guy after guy after guy after guy doing slow stuff because you're trying to be artistic, you're not really setting yourself apart with being artistic. You're just melting in with the crowd for being, Santiago Aragon's routine to The Show Must Go On, a slower routine, but by no means did that routine just kind of, mix in with the rest of the slow routines. I mean, his poses were slower, classical style posings, but you have to, every time you get on stage, you have to do your best to try to set yourself apart. And when you become complacent with just getting up there and going through the motions to whatever song you liked on the radio that week, that's when you're making it easier for people to forget about you.
Well, listen, it's very emotional getting ready for a show. Your emotions are out of check because your hormones are all over the place. So I think what happens most of the time is the guys will listen to songs. Maybe it has some meaning to them. It's all that type of thing.
Right.
Listen, it may have meaning to you, but it doesn't have meaning to the 2,000 people that are sitting out there. So what you're experiencing?
It's even a little different at a pro show. I'm in a bit of a conundrum right now. I don't want to say conundrum because I have happily posed to my 80s rock music for a lot of my shows.
Sure.
I did Purple Rain last year because my show was a few days after Prince died. Last minute, I had my recut. And my show this year is on my mom's birthday. And so
don't do it, bro. Here we go.
Let me
solve your conundrum right now, okay? Listen.
Part of me is, part of me wants to slow it down, do something kind of fancy, but
don't do it.
I don't know if I feel comfortable going on stage without John Bon Jovi's voice leading me through my poses, or Kip Winger, or Whitesnake, or somebody.
Listen, with all due respect to Mrs. Bay, okay? Listen,
Phillips. Very married, Mrs. Phillips, Mary. So.
Whatever. Okay, David's mother. Okay, don't. I will absolutely kill you myself. Okay, I don't. Listen, here's your parameters, and that's going to bring us to this week's edition of Baywatch. All right. What's the current status, bro?
Tomorrow's 6 weeks out, so
right,
I feel pretty good with where I feel pretty good with where my progress is at. But being a little bit disappointed myself for the last few times I've gotten on stage, I'm really putting a lot of pressure on myself. So I'm happy with my conditioning, but I want to be as lean as I've ever been.
All right, what's the weight at?
Morning, just under 240 by midday, low 240s. I mean, so, my goal was to get to heavyweight, which I still think in 6 weeks I can make it under 225.
Oh, yeah. Sure
but, it sounds super cliche, but I just want to go in where I'm at my best. And for me, for as long as I've been competing and doing the Mr. Wisconsin again, it's like, look, if I don't win the overall, and no disrespect to people who are going in with their own individual goals, but for me, if I don't take the overall, then it's a loss for me. So if I'm a 227-pound super heavyweight and I win the supers, but I can't beat the heavyweight, then it's not a win for me, or vice versa. So for me, I really have zero concern as far as what I'm actually going to weigh, because the goal is to be able to beat everybody else on that stage. And winning a weight class for me is not a win.
Well,
so.
Let me commend you on that, number one, okay? So we'll get into the conundrum in just a second, but let me commend you on that, and I'll tell you why. I am so sick of looking at Facebook and seeing all these ridiculous memes and these sayings, and it's not about, it's the journey, not the destination. No, bullshit. It is about the destination, okay? Listen, this is competition. I never went into a show to, quote, do the best I can do, or to, quote, just beat myself, no, I went in the show to win the freaking show.
Yeah,
the goal.
And when you get to a national level, it's a little different. I mean, to be honest with you, at the Wisconsin shows, generally we have good quality at our shows, but there's been a few off years where some of the good guys are getting ready for nationals or whatever. And I guess at the end of the day, for me, if I need to be the leanest I've ever been, and I want to be that way whether I win or whether I take fifth place, because at the end of the day, I'd like to be able to, if nothing else, just look at pictures and say I was happy with how I looked. And if you win, let's say I win, let's say nobody shows up, which I already know there's going to be very good competition there. So it's going to be far from an easy win. But let's say, the parameters are different, and I win and I show up, and, oh, hey, I won the overall at the state championships. And then I post up some pictures, and it becomes very apparent that I just beat up on the JV squad. It's like nobody's impressed by that. You can say you won and you're an overall champion. So for me, it's a combination of both things. Look, I'm sorry, I'll try to keep my language toned down. I'm 100. That's how I get when I get in. I'm 100% training to win.
Yeah.
And it's a show I really believe I can win if I'm at 100%. I can't screw up. I can't come in at 95% like I did, or 90% like I did last year, or 85% the last time I competed. I have to be at 100%, and that's my goal. But like I said, I would be disappointed in myself if, like, let's say I showed up and just screwed the pooch, and everybody else screwed the pooch even worse. I wouldn't be proud of showing pictures. I'd probably say, hey, I won the show I did.
A lot of pooch screwing going on here.
Sure, a lot of pooch screwing.
What kind of animals are you guys? All right, listen, let me give you a couple parameters, okay? If there's 2 guys in your class and you take second, you took last.
Don't take I got top 2.
Yeah, top 2. And took second place in a very competitive show with 300
top
people.
2. Where's the pictures? They're getting developed.
Let me clue in the listeners, okay? Listen, these are all catchphrases that you use. First of all, in a very competitive field of 300. No, there was 300 people in the entire show, okay, that you didn't beat. Number 2. You didn't take second, you took last. Okay, that's the bottom line. There was 2 guys, you took second. That means you're last. Okay.
I saw a girl post last year after one of the stage shows, and she was like, I got 5th or 6th out of like 60 bikini girls, and I was like, there was 60 bikini girls there. But there wasn't 60 bikini girls.
No.
In our class.
You see what I mean? See, this is the rouge that's put out there. Okay, this is Facebook land. This is Generation Selfie. Okay, that we're dealing with here with all this.
But if you place top 5, then you can put on your Instagram that you're nationally qualified.
Things I don't want to hear from your mouth.
That's the worst.
I don't want to hear that you won the show.
Qualified.
I don't want to hear that you won before you even stepped on the stage. No, you didn't. Okay, listen. Well, I achieved my best shape. It's like, look, if your best shape was good for 8th, then you got your ass handed to you. Okay, listen. If it's a personal goal, then don't go in the competition. Right? Listen, you can achieve your personal goal being at home. Hey, man, I got my best shape on August 10th.
I just want to get nationally qualified so I can put it on my Instagram. So, guys, if you're watching this, please stop putting 4 times, 5 times nationally qualified on your Instagram. If you place top 5 at NPC Nationals and Junior USA's, Junior Nationals, any national level show, look, getting to an NPC national level show and placing in the top 5 is very respectable. I don't care if it's Junior Nationals, Junior USA's, whatever. But please, everybody, stop putting on your Instagram that you are nationally qualified. And look, you guys know I've been competing in the NPC for 16 years. If I didn't like the NPC, I'd have been long gone. Right. So it doesn't have anything to do with them. It has to do 100% with the people who haven't accomplished anything and they're trying to bring their own clout to themselves or trying to brag by having been nationally qualified. So guys, please stop with the 4X nationally qualified. If you'll notice on my Instagram page, I take a little dig at that with my
as you should,
with my disco dancing national qualification. But
all right, so we got to work on song. There's no conundrum. Listen, love Mom, but no, we're not picking a song for Mom. Okay?
All right, there goes that. You know what? I will. My thing to my mom will be just winning.
Yeah, winning.
You know how moms are. She thinks I've won already. I think everybody there. I won already.
Yeah, you already won. So that's already a given. But yeah, we got to work on the song. We'll continue. You got 6 weeks, so we'll work on something there. So perhaps an '80s medley.
I have my buddy, the guy who actually puts my music together is like a music producer. Like he does like local radio commercials and works with bands and producers. And he's been just at me for a while. Let's put together some kind of medley that's really kick ass. And I usually wait until like 3 weeks out. And I try to pick cool music still, but I'm like, whatever. So maybe we'll talk to him and get some kind of medley.
You should do a combo. Maybe some Tone Loc and some Humpty Dance or something, or some.
No, because then I'm the white guy on stage. I can dance for a white guy.
Yeah, listen, I've seen you cut some rug.
Yeah, we had the after party at Tampa last year.
You can cut.
We had all the Puerto Rican girls that were like, oh, the white guy's going to dance. And they're like, all right, he can move. But But no, I try not to. It's totally different when you're a white guy on stage in a Speedo.
True.
You know, it
No,
changes things.
yeah, we're going to come up with something cool. But
one more piece of news before I wanted to go that I wanted to clear up. Apparently, there has been fake news.
CNN in the house.
Fake news going around about Sean Roden not doing the Olympia.
Now, I saw something about. I have not heard at all.
Sean Ray's usually got look. Sean Ray, 99.9% of the time, is wired in as tightly as you can be as far as information.
Right.
So, from what I know, it came from Sean over on MD, and of course, other people at MD repeated said information. Sean Roden is 100% doing the Olympia.
Well, I didn't think it was anything different. I haven't heard anything different.
100% doing the Olympia. So he is training angry. Bob, I think you're going to have fun with it. I've had dinner with Sean when we were down in Houston. Apparently, Sean is going to take the gloves off at the press conference this year.
Oh, please.
So,
listen, I'm begging people to take the gloves off. Last year, he was supposed to take the gloves off.
Roden said he's going to take the gloves off at the press conference this year.
Listen, I'll believe it when I see it, number one, okay? He took them off last year after the press conference ended, and he went over and said something to Phil. And Phil says, why didn't you say that during the press conference? No, listen, Roden's too nice. That's number one. Two, if you're going to talk some smack, you better be able to back it up. That I can definitely tell you. And three, there'll be all kinds of people talking smack this year because Rami's English is good enough now where he can talk some shit, which is cool. And you got some new guys in the mix. So now here's the $1 million question, because now time is marching out like we had mentioned at the top of the show. Is Kai Green going to actually go in? Is he actually going to sign the contract? Is this just a bunch of garbage?
I mean, he posts pictures on social media, and it looks like Kai. It looks like he's in shape enough to be ready for the Olympia in now 10 weeks. But I don't, like I said, from everything that I gathered from Kai and his manager Adam earlier on in June, it looked like it's a no.
Yeah,
but
listen, he ain't going to sign nothing. And Phil put out a thing this last week, which I loved.
Basically
saying, like, look, man, either sign the damn thing or don't. You're doing your own fans a disservice.
I think that's kind of the thing where, people just want to hear whether he's going to do it or not. But, it was my understanding that there was never any intention on doing it. So, it's kind of repetitive, almost like, well, no, the answer is still no. Just because you asked me publicly doesn't mean my answer is going to change.
Well, and let me, David, let me clarify.
Being that it is public now, it would be nice to get some clarification. But we know Kai does things a little bit different and a little bit more dramatic than anybody else. It's not much of a surprise that he's leaving us hanging.
Well, let me clarify this though for the listeners. Kai did not ask for a special invite. Okay.
No, he did not.
This was extended by the Olympia committee to Kai Green. All right, it's as a courtesy, in part, and the other part is to basically put it out there that nobody's keeping Kai from the stage, okay, and therefore we're extending a special invitation, okay, to him. So now he doesn't have any excuses. I don't want to hear no garbage. I don't want to hear no excuses. I don't want to hear no they're keeping me out, or I'm not allowed to, or I'm crying by this fence, by this freeway. We're going to make this video garbage, okay? All that's gone. Ball's in Kai's court. If he wants to go in the Olympia, he can. There's plenty of time. He's been in shape, like you said. But let me make that perfectly clear. That is totally up to Kai as to whether he accepts it or he doesn't. Now, I don't know if there's a cutoff date, and I'll try to get that before our next show.
Okay.
Because I can't imagine we're going to let this run up until the 11th hour.
Yeah, no,
you can waltz into the meeting, on game day.
Just for promotional purposes, if nothing else. The Olympia's got Olympia LLC, Robin Chang. Those guys have posters to make, promotional stuff to do, and all sorts of fun stuff for the VIP members, the expo hall. So if you're going to have Kai Green there, obviously he's somebody whose face they're going to slap all over promotional materials, and they're going to have to know one way or another whether he's going to.
Let me also clarify on that. You are not
and people booking tickets. I mean, wow, guys,
correct.
If you don't have your Olympia tickets booked, better start getting on it. Plane tickets.
You are not going to see Kai Green in any promotional material because that is part of signing the contract. So unless Kai were to sign it tomorrow, okay. That's what gives license to the Olympia people, all right?
Use
the promoters,
okay.
AMI, all that, to use your likeness to promote the Olympia. And that was part of the tie-up last year and the year before, was he, for some bizarre reason, did not want his likeness out there as representing the Olympia. Now, that's bizarre in its own right, and that's a whole other show. But I'll be very curious to see if he actually takes it. But I'm going to get a cutoff date. I will have a conversation with Robin Chang. I'm even curious myself. What's the date that's okay, it's off the table now. We will not see Kai in there. Because you're right, David. Look, I'm a big Kai Green fan. I want to go and see. I'll absolutely go if he's in the Olympia. Listen, you got to make reservations. Talking about Olympia weekend, everything's already sold out, bro. You know what I mean? It's not like even right now you've got an opportunity to be at the host hotel. That's gone. I mean, it's already, the VIP tickets are already sold out. Host hotels probably already sold out. But you're doing a disservice to your own fans if you don't at least say, look, appreciate the offer, but I'm out, or I'm in. You know, pick a path. But
agreed. So, well, I'll tell you what, that'll be a good thing for us to wait for our next show. Have you talk to Robin and see what we can find out about Kai and a cutoff date, and maybe I'll reach out, talk to Adam or maybe Kai himself and see if I can't get a little word from those guys.
Sure, absolutely. All right, David, well, that's going to wrap things up here. Appreciate the update on Baywatch, of course. Next week, ever closer to that all-important 4-week mark, my friend. That's when the rubber meets the road.
That's when maybe I'll post maybe I'll post a progress picture.
Listen, I think we should have the people.
I've had so many friends give me a hard time. How come no progress pictures? I'm just not a progress picture guy, you know?
Listen, I think we should have the people vote on your song. What do you think?
What's that?
I think we should have the people vote on your song.
I don't know. I hate to leave that.
Come on, let's put it out. Listen, let the people speak. They know you're an '80s guy, so listen. Clearly, we'll say here's the stipulation. Okay, the song has to be made in the '80s. All right, we'll just go with that. After that, it's wide open. Like I say, by popular vote, I think we should. Maybe
I'll give. What if I did like an options? Like you can choose from Living on a Prayer, Paradise City, Here I Go Again, Same Old Situation,
Putting on the Ritz.
Maybe you just have some fun. Firehouse, Don't Treat Me Bad. Some Poison, Ride the Wind, or Fallen Angel. Maybe like a multiple choice.
Cherry Pie. I mean, come on, we can come up with something.
Some Warrant. We'll see. Let me go over it.
All right, listen. Here's what we're gonna do, okay? Because we do stuff on the fly, because that's just how we do things here. All right, we're gonna pick. You're gonna pick 10 songs.
10 songs.
Okay, 10 songs to choose from. All right, we will post them up on the YouTube channel, and we will let the people by vote. They can pick any one of those 10 songs. That's what you're going to use. All right, take the challenge.
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, you sound real confident about that, but okay. All right, listen, we'll put it together. You pick 10 songs this week.
All right, 10 songs.
Now, in fairness, I should be able to pick one or two, but
I'll let you pick out a couple, as long as it's not putting on the Ritz.
I'm picking More Stay in the Time. That's what
something
I'm going
by the Doobie Brothers.
Hey, they don't be related, but they do be brothers. Listen, I'm going to go with More Stay in the Time for you. I think it's time to bring the bird back. We can do this.
All right.
For all the sexy people out there, buddy.
All the sexy.
All right, that's going to wrap things up here for this week. For David Bay, I'm Bob Chick. We'll see you guys next week.
Out.